The room was dark, smelled like cement and alcohol. Mine's head throbbed as she blinked awake, her wrist bound tightly behind her back, cutting her into skin. Fear rushed through her as she realized where she was. The last thing she remembered was getting proposed by Leo. She rejected him respectfully, apologizing to him afterwards, and left with a smile. After that, the class, she was kidnapped by him. He had seemed harmless before, just another guy at school with an innocent crush, but his smile was different when she turned him down. There was something twisted behind it. She had felt the chill then, but she never imagined it would come to this. The door creaked open and then he stepped inside. His face twisted in the sick grin. The dim light caught the gleam in his eyes as he slowly approached her, his footsteps echoing off the cold floor. Mike's heart raced, panic rushing in his throat. Ryan, you don't know him. You have no idea what you have done. The man laughed, the sound cold and hollow. Leo, oh, I know exactly what I've done. I've taken his precious wife. Let's see how he stays. When he finds out, she's used. His hand moved to his shirt, and Ryan's body froze in terror. Her breath came in irregular gasps as she struggled against the rope. This couldn't be happening. Leo, you should have said just yes. Now, look at what you have made me do. She didn't respond, her pulse hammering in her ears as she tried to focus on anything but the fear that gripped her. He grabbed her chin, forcing her to look in his eyes, his breath hot and disgusting on her face. Leo, you really think your husband can protect you from everything? He's not here now, is he? Nobody's coming for you. But even as he said the words, Ryan's mind raced to the one person she knew would burn the entire world to the ground to find her, Jungkook. His hands gripped onto her neck, others slid in her hair in a very wrong manner. He had a wicked smile with evil intentions. Ryan's mind spun. She had no escape, no strength to fight him off. She knew one thing. This man had no idea what was coming for him. The light flickered suddenly, and a chill swept through the room, as though the air itself had turned dangerous. The temperature dropped, the man paused, frowning. His grip on Ryan's hair loosened slightly as he looked around. That was when she heard it, the faintest sound, like a distant rumble of thunder, growing louder. No, not the thunder, footsteps, slow, heavy, each one filled the room with dread. Her kidnapper stood, looking toward the door, confusion crossing his face. He was about to ask something when the footsteps stopped just outside the door, and then the silence, as if creating silence that stretched out on for what felt like an eternity. Wyatt's heart pounded in her chest. Her eyes locked onto the door. He was here. She could feel him. The man beside her took a step back, uneasy looking in his eyes. Leo, who the hell is? Before he could finish, the door slowly opened, letting out a sound. The sight that met him was not what Ryan had expected. Jungkook stood in the doorway, but not in his usual suit. His black shirt was torn, filled with dark stains, his hair wet and slicked back as if he had been caught up in a storm. His eyes, though, his eyes burned with fury that was not human. He was a man usually calm, but when it came to her, he was merciless. He didn't look at her. His gaze was locked onto the man who dared to touch what was his. The man's face paled. Leo, you can't. Jungkook's lips curled into a smile that sent shivers down Ryan's spine. He stepped into the room, slow, deliberate, like a predator savoring the moment before the kill. His hands were bare, no weapon in sight, but the energy he carried was deadlier than any blade. Jungkook, you thought I wouldn't come for her? You thought you could take what's mine? The man backed away, fear twisting his features. Leo, I I didn't mean. He surely was acting almighty just a while ago, but he never expected Ryan's husband to turn out such a scary figure. Jungkook didn't mean to. You planned this. You had time to think about it, time to regret it. And yet, here you are. He closed the distance between them in two swift strides, grabbing the man by the throat before he could react. Leo gasped, clawing at Jungkook's hand, but it was useless. Jungkook's grip was iron, his expressions blank, emotionless. Leo, let me explain. Jungkook, no explanations. I don't need to understand a fool like you. With a sudden, violent movement, Jungkook slammed Leo against the wall, cracking the plaster. The man groaned, his head lolling to the side, feeling dizzy. Jungkook leaned in close, his lips barely an inch from his ear. Jungkook, do you know what happens to men who touch my wife? I whispered, his voice so low it sent shivers down my spine. Leo whimpered, too terrified to respond. Jungkook didn't wait for an answer. He grabbed Leo with the collar and flung him across the room as though he weighed nothing. The man hit the floor hard, gasping for air, clutching his chest. Wine watched, breathless, as Jungkook didn't go for his gun, didn't pull out a knife. No, he was going to do this with his bare hands. He walked over to the man who was now crawling on the floor, trying to reach the door. Desperation painted his face, but there was no escape. Jungkook, I told you I'd find you, and now you'll pay. He flipped Leo over, pinning him to the ground, his knee pressing into Leo's chest. With one swift motion, he snapped the man's neck. Jungkook slowly stood, his eyes turning towards her, and the darkness that had filled them moments before faded. He moved towards her, his steps light as if he hadn't just entered a light. He knelt in front of her, his fingers brushing gently against her cheek, wiping away a tear that she hadn't realized had fallen. Jungkook, are you okay? He asked softly, his voice no longer cold but warm, concerned. Vine, I knew you would come, but I was scared. Jungkook untied her and took her in his warm embrace. It was not the first time Vine saw him killing. It didn't affect her much, but that doesn't mean she was used to it and all good with it. Jungkook, I have you now. No need to be scared anymore. He was calm, or rather, trying to stay calm when he was around her. She had no energy left in her legs. Yet, without having to tell him that, he picked her up in his arms and walked out of that dirty place. He placed Vine on his lap as they got inside the car. Vine never moved out of his embrace. She never once loosened his grip on his shirt. Jungkook pressed a soft kiss to her top of her head. Jungkook, get some rest, love. I'll be home soon. Vine, don't go anywhere. Jungkook, I will never. And she drifted off, lulled by the steady rhythm of the rain and the warmth of Jungkook's embrace. Vine knew that no matter what darkness awaited them, she would never have to face it alone, not with Jungkook by her side. Because in the end, he wasn't just her husband, he was her shield, her weapon, her darkness.